Hey Mike, what are we looking at here?
Uh, well, this is an example right here in our own Santa Cruz, an example of the fact that the Bigfoot, Yeti, the mystery primates around the world have become an icon unto themselves, and they're definitely a part of pop culture. And we're right now riding on a kind of a wave of interest in this subject matter. I think a wave that might involve more interest than ever before. And what this is, now there's no reason why this is on the cover of this issue that I know of from having read this. There's no connection with this. This is a little poetry contest that they were having. There's no poems in the in here that talking about Yetis or Bigfoots, and yet here's this image on the front. I think it's probably that the art director had access to the image and thought it was kind of interesting and just decided to use it. But what it does for me, of course, is bring a bunch of things to mind. So I look at this image as someone who's been steeped in Bigfootology for my entire life, and a whole bunch of things start popping out to me. First thing that I notice, and this is the most amazing part, is the concept of, how do you differentiate a real Bigfoot from a costume or an effigy? For example, if you look here at the arm, the outstretched arm, you can see wrinkles here. This is a very typical manifestation of a costume. Most costumes are purchased off the rack in costume shops, or they're homemade, and they're usually made from this faux fur, which is cloth that has fake fur attached to it. Usually it's made from nylon, and it's not even animal protein. Now, in an expensive costume like the one used in Harry and the Hendersons, they had to hand sew every single hair in, and they used, genuine hairs to do that. Another thing you notice here that's very costumey is this thick ankle. I mean, look at the ankles on this sucker. He looks elephantine. There's no ankles there because that's a cuff. It's the costume hanging down, and there's an actual cuff there. And so you don't see any gastrocnemius muscle, you don't see any of the tibia, any of the bones of the leg. And if you were to look at the Patterson film and look at the legs on that thing, you would see musculature there. And you would also see bald spots. Like where it sat down, there should be less hair there. Where it rubs its knee or gets on its knees, there should be less hair there. If it's got scars on its legs, there would be no hair growing on the scar tissue. All of that sort of detail is present on the Patterson-Gimlin film, but it doesn't show up in a costume like this. The other thing that's really interesting is that this thing, I would have to say, it's meant to depict a Yeti, because the Yeti is the mystery primate that's most often depicted as being white. And of course, that's a bit of cultural legend, because most Yetis are described as black or brown, just like most Sasquatch. Although we have an occasional blonde Sasquatch report, and occasionally a white one is reported. There's always the possibility, of course, of something being an albino. But basically speaking, these Yetis that are always depicted in white, that's an affectation of culture. That's our concept from the silly mistranslation of the Tibetan word, and it was mistranslated as abominable snowman. Well, they don't live in the snow. They cross the snow when they're going from one alpine valley to another, but they have to be somewhere where there's food. So those are just some thoughts about looking at this picture, this little icon here of a Yeti or a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch or whatever they thought it was.